All right, this is entitled, He Probably Wasn't Honest About Why He Walked Away. I want to have a conversation with you. Hopefully my voice will allow me to. It's coming back little by little. I'm still getting over being sick, but hopefully my voice will hold up. I want to talk about this because I saw the most perfect example. I was going to do a reel and share screenshots, but it was just so much work trying to redact the names and all that. So I said, let me just do story time and I will read it to you. I took some screenshots that I'm going to read, but I had the perfect example to show why men often do what they do. This is not an excuse for anyone's behavior, but this is the perfect example of why people can respond the way that they do. So let me paint this scenario for you. If you guys have followed me for a while, you know that I often talk about how most men are not comfortable breaking up, one, and two, if they do, they're not going to be honest usually about why they are doing that. If this is something that you are interested in learning about, go ahead and comment me in the comments and feel free to share your city and state. Let me know if if this is your first time watching. If it is, you can comment newbie. So city and state, comment newbie if this is your first live stream that you are catching, and we are going to dive right in. I haven't decided right now if I'm going to save this. I did one yesterday. I promised to save it, but my voice is just so out of control. I didn't save. I saved it, but I didn't post it, I should say. Anyway, all right, so let's get into this. So here's the scenario. A guy is pursuing you. You think that things are going well, and then he pulls back and eventually goes away completely. Oh, shout out to the newbies. We got Prentice from California. Very nice to have you. Soraya from Virginia. Very nice. Hi, Nifa. Thank you for tapping in. I see some familiar faces. Fort Lauderdale. Hey, darling. I forget your first name, but yes, I see you. I love Bob Marley. So let's get into it. So he's giving you attention, or he's in the relationship and things are starting to change. He seems emotionally distant, and then maybe you even end things with him because you don't like the way he's acting. Well, the guys have spilled the tea, and the guys have let me know why they do this. I've asked this question a number of times with different audiences, and their answers are all the same, even though they don't know each other. And it's pretty cool when guys give the same answer over and over again, because you can pretty much say, well, this is probably universal. Now, this played out in real time. So I'm going to give you a spoiler alert, and I'll tell you the reason why. And it's because oftentimes women have difficulty regulating their emotions. They have a very hard time when they feel an emotion, being able to put the feelings aside and be able to have a conversation that is productive. Okay? Now, if you say, that's not me, well, this isn't the place for you then. But if you think that there's a possibility that you could learn something, then I invite you to stay and listen. Okay? This happened in real time. The conversation is still going on, and I just took some screenshots so that I could read it to you guys. But just join me for story time, okay? So this was on someone's post, and she was talking about certain men who play games and why they do what they do. So I added some additional insight in saying the men who aren't playing games and are actually feeling the women initially and are willing to invest to get to know her further, but due to a lack of reciprocity, they back off. I said the 2024 men have learned their value. I forgot to put the word men. I just saw this. I said, disclaimer, not my opinion. I interview men for a living. Okay. Oh, she said I do this all the time. Okay. Yeah, I'm starting to feel a little bit better. I'm actually able to sit up in bed and every now and then walk around the house and do something. I was able to wash some dishes this morning. It felt good. And then I felt exhausted, like I ran a marathon. So I went and laid back down, and I've been down ever since. Okay. So I was saying that there are a lot of guys who are serious, and due to a lack of reciprocity, they fall back. Thank you, Nifa. Okay. So let's skip to the important parts. Okay. So one of the the woman in, what should we call her? Should we call her Brenda? We'll call her Brenda. Okay, that's the first name that came to my head. Brenda says, I reciprocate and there's no outcome. Maybe you haven't interviewed the men where I live. It seems like they want someone who's playing games as well. Shrug emoji. Okay, so Brenda is coming back and saying, nope, that can't be what it is, because I reciprocate and I'm not getting a different outcome. So it has to be that they're just playing games. Okay. So then a gentleman jumped in and he said, thank you. I was like, okay, so he's responding. Sorry, I'm trying to give context so you guys can understand how this is going. All right, so this gentleman is responding to me and he says, thank you. I was like, if I like you, I make it known through my words and actions, gift giving, and I will continue to do so if there is reciprocity. And I'm not talking sex or gifts. I mean time, appreciation, connection, vulnerability, which, by the way, we go over reciprocity in great detail in my 8-week coaching program. If you're interested, just DM me the word December and I'll share more information. Anyway, so he chimes in. Second guy chimes in and he says, Brenda, is it possible that the problem could be you then? I mean, I get it. Every woman believes she's a good woman, but have you ever considered the possibility? I'm not sure. Oh, I'm sure not. Which, tad bit pokey, but okay. So Brenda replies, no, I have not considered that possibility because I know it's not me. And I'm not tooting my own horn here. I've actually had open conversations with men about why this won't work, and they all said I'm a good A woman that they weren't ready for at this time in their life. So why don't you go ask men why they reject good women? Hell, ask yourself. So, no, I don't just think I'm a good A woman. Sorry, there was a period in there. So, no, I don't think I'm a good A woman. I know it. And that's what I'm told by men. But do I act all high and mighty? No. I'm humbled. I'm humble. Oh, I'm humbled. Okay. She's saying, I'm humble. You need to humble yourself. Asking a woman you don't know if she is the problem is this conversation. In this conversation, you're the problem. Have a good day. Okay. So that was, we're calling her Brenda, Brenda's response. Okay. And I'm sorry. I'm really not trying to make fun. I struggle when the punctuation is off, which is why we have punctuation. But essentially she's saying that no, she's had conversations. They all say that she's a good A woman. And he's the problem, the man who's commenting. Okay. Oh, how funny. She said, I sound Canadian. No, I'm a Californian with a really bad cold. But that's a first. Okay. So I'm going to skip the other lady's comments. Okay. So this gentleman, oh, it's not an insult at all. That's kind of cool. So this gentleman commented, Brenda, everything you said is exactly what men tell women, to let them down easily, when in fact she is the problem and she refuses to do self-reflection. I have heard many men, including myself, tell toxic or stubborn or boring women the same line, excuses just to walk away with an open door in case he wants to double back after actually becoming a better woman for marriage. Sometimes they're coming back for something else. Let's just be honest. To which she replied, nah, bruh, that doesn't apply to me. It's funny, it's dramatic reading. I'm not one of them women you said that to. What is men still want to be in that hoe phase, and that's okay. I'm sure you were still in your hoe phase when you told them women that. I work on myself every day, every year. I'm a better person. So that self-reflect bull is out of the window with me, dog. you can call any of them up and ask the real reason. Since you seem to beg to differ, I'll gladly provide you with their number. You let me know. Okay? So then I said to the gentleman, I came to write this. So many guys have admitted to doing that to get out of the combo. And I responded to Brenda by saying, ironically, your response just shows that you have difficulty managing your emotions. 2 men gave you answers you didn't like, and you begin to hurl accusations and curse. That is 100% why the majority of men lie to women about why they are leaving, because the woman's ego can't take it. So, I wanted to read word for word what was said so you could see something that happens in real life. Now, I gave a little grace because I said the first comment seemed a bit pokey, possibly, but even if she was offended, she doesn't have to switch it up and become so aggressive with her language. There were a few times where she was using profanity, and was insinuating that he needed, not insinuating, telling him that he needed to work on himself. The irony is that he gave her an opinion that she disagreed with, and instead of going, okay, that's your opinion, or why do you have that opinion, she immediately went into defense mode. Now, I'm not going to say that he's right. I'm not going to say that he's wrong, because the point of this conversation, the reason for this live stream, is to point out why men typically don't give their honest truth and why they're walking away. At the point that they're walking away, they don't want to have a conversation that's going to be taxing. They don't want to deal with drama. At this point, it's like, you're not my problem anymore. We're not together. I just want my peace. And she literally gave, on paper, a real life example of what's happening. Now, this is a stranger she's talking to who she doesn't know from Adam. Can you imagine the emotions she would have with a guy she is dating, possibly sleeping with? Okay? So she's getting this riled up over a stranger and responding this way. Imagine the response that she would get if a guy said, hey, Brenda, this is why I'm leaving, and it's you. It's this, it's that. If you are new to my page, I want to say this. I am very aware that there are tons of people who are online telling women that they're doing something wrong and they're the problem and this and that. And I know it can be overwhelming, especially if the person is coming from a place of judgment, like, you guys should be doing this and you guys should be doing that. And if you were like me, you'd have it all figured out. And I definitely don't want to come across that way. And I want to share the reason why I do the content that I do. I have failed miserably. I have made almost all of the mistakes. I got married and ended up divorcing 12 years later. And I divorced because I felt like there was no possible, coming back from like the place that we had just sunk so low. I didn't think there was any coming back from that. And honestly, I wanted my daughter to be able to see a loving example, and because kids tend to emulate what they see. So I say all that to say, I am in no place of judgment. I can tell you what it's like at the bottom because I've been there. And I had to look at the truths that my ex told me while I was in it. And I reflected a lot after I was out of the marriage. And it has helped me to become the person I am today. My guy and I both say we would not have made it if we met earlier in life, because we had to learn some painful lessons. And one of the things that I had to really, really work on was defensiveness. And this is the heart of what I want to share today. If you really analyze defensiveness is you attempting to defend, right? It's a psychological thing, but it's a defense, just like if somebody were to come at you this way. The thing is that there's always perception. Let's use a physical metaphor. Somebody could be standing there and see someone arm coming up like this, and they go, oh, I'm about to be attacked, and they go like this, and the person could have just been reaching for something over their head, or they could have been trying to get something out of their hair, or what have you, right? The arm went up, but the person who it was happening to perceived that there was an incoming threat. They perceived that they needed to defend, and so they immediately had a knee-jerk reaction. This is what happens a lot in relationships when your partner gives you constructive criticism. And I purposely mean constructive criticism because there are some people who you shouldn't be with who are just mean to be mean. But if you're in a relationship with a person that is a normal, human, decent person, they're going to give you constructive criticism because our partners end up being mirrors. They see the blind spots that we don't see. And they live with us, every single day if you're married or if you live with the person. Or if not, you spend a lot of time with them. So when they are sharing something critical about you, there is a human response that says, I'm being attacked. I need to defend. And for me, when I really took a deep dive and I looked at my defensiveness, because I was horribly defensive in my marriage, what I realized was I had a belief system that I wasn't enough. We won't talk about where it came from. Doesn't matter. That was my belief system. I was not enough. And if I was getting criticism, this was the beginning of the end. This was the beginning of my partner going to abandon me. Because, oh God, he realized and discovered I'm not perfect. That means next steps are he's leaving. Can you understand psychologically? Now, this wasn't something that I just in the moment was like, oh, it takes time to untangle and figure out. But I remember sitting at the top of my stairs one day just going, why is everyone around me telling me I'm so defensive? Why am I getting this feedback? And it took a while to unlearn that behavior. And I use this mustard example all the time. So if you've heard it before, my apologies. You're about to hear it again. When you are in a place where you need correction, it is the equivalent of you, let's say, eating a hot dog and you have a little mustard on your face. When you are in a healthy place, somebody could say, oh girl, you got some little mustard right here. And you don't even really give it a second thought. You're like, oh. And you're grateful that you no longer have mustard. Like, wow, thank goodness that person was there because who knows where I was about to be and everyone could have seen me. Oh, thank you, Aquarius Tosh, for the badge. I appreciate that. Very sweet. When you're not in a healthy place, somebody says, oh, there's a little mustard on your face. You hear, there's something wrong with me. I'm flawed. Throw the whole person away. I'm not worthy. Oh, I'm disgusting. Oh, I'm terrible. How could anybody want to be with someone who has this going on? And it's this big thing in your mind. If you are able to shift your mindset slightly, you realize what a beautiful thing this is. If a person is invested enough to give you feedback, that means they're invested in you. That means they're not going anywhere. That means they're saying, I want to give you tools to which you can better love me. I'm going to give you the cheat code on how to make life with me more delicious. And this is the wild twist. If you make life more delicious with that person, guess what they don't want to do? They don't want to pack their stuff and leave. The irony is that it is a self-fulfilling prophecy. I'm not really using that term correctly in this scenario, but I think you can get what I'm saying. You'll basically make what you don't want to have happen by being defensive. I'm being defensive because I'm scared they're going to leave me because I'm not perfect. But in my defensiveness, I'm going to be so unattractive emotionally that actually might make them want to leave. Does that make sense what I'm saying? So I've worked with people before in the moment where their partner was giving them feedback, and it was so beautiful. Trying not to give away genders. The one partner who was getting the feedback verbalized the angst that they were feeling and said, I'm feeling defensive right now. And I know that's something that you say I do. I'm feeling defensive, which was amazing. Acknowledging that this thing is coming up. But now we realize it's a trick of the enemy to get us off the path. And so that person said, this is what I'm feeling, but I receive what you're saying, and I'm willing to do X, Y, Z to do better in the future. And it resolved. It resolved. And like I said, it didn't matter why I got to that place, but it might be helpful. Thank you, sir. It might be helpful to give scenarios in which you might identify to see if this is how you behave. Hey, Summer, I'm like at 80% now. Thank you for asking. If you had somebody who was very prominent in your life and they constantly criticized you, that could be something that will make you very susceptible to being defensive. Okay, we all have human nature. We all have a sin nature, so it's natural to feel defensive. But if you're overly, this could be a reason. Also, if you had somebody very close to you, maybe a caregiver, a parent, or someone, very instrumental in your upbringing, who emotionally punished you when you did something they didn't like. So let's say, for example, if you disappointed them or upset them, and they became emotionally distant from you for days on end, or had promised to go get ice cream, but now we're not going to go. I don't feel like it anymore. I was going to read with you, but I'm not going to read anymore. And things went on and progressed past the situation. Those things can kind of create, I think, a trauma response. I don't have a certification in this. I'm only speaking from my own personal experience. So if we have any psychologists out there, therapists who know more specifically, feel free to chime in. But for me, I found that there was a fear. When I was defensive, the root of it was fear. I'm afraid of what's to come. And the tools that I was utilizing, defensiveness, the tool, I guess, is just one thing, it wasn't working. It was actually exacerbating the problem. And so I can say now at age 44, because I was really like that, my 20s is the time it was really bad when I was, married. So all of my 20s and some of my 30s. But at 44 now, what I'm able to do is look at the person in front of me and say, do I trust this person? Like, in general. If it's yes, then I'm open to hearing what they have to say. Then I don't have to agree initially. Me being open, opening my ears, opening my heart to what they have to say doesn't even mean I have to agree with it. It just means I'm going to process it. I'm going to put it in the computer and hit that processing button, and I'm going to assess what comes out. So if what they say makes sense, I can then say, I can see that. Okay? And then you get to move on. And then I'm going to add this. If you're on the other side and you're dealing with a person who's very defensive, shorter is better. Because this process is grueling when a person is getting used to getting criticism. We're trying to, I should say, build up a tolerance to the discomfort that you feel when you want to be defensive. You almost feel like you're on fire. You want to hide. You want to attack back. You're just, blah. It's like all the alarms are going off in your body and in your brain. So if you can minimize that, it's kind of like ripping off a Band-Aid. Just do it quick. Don't drag it out. Don't touch the spot afterwards. Just rip it off and then move on. Little by little, their tolerance will grow. But if you just, oh my God, and you harp on how you felt and, oh, this is how it made, just straight to the point. Hey, when you went to bed without doing the dishes, it made me feel like I wasn't supported. It made me feel like you didn't care about my sleep or whatever the thing is, right? And if they say, oh man, that wasn't even my intention, I am so sorry. I just dozed off watching the show and I meant to get up. Okay, move on. You got the admission, you got the apology, and then move on. Because all that dragging. And I think that if we as people constantly lived in a state of how would I feel if I was them? How would I feel if I was them? How would I feel if I was them? The world would be a better place. That is something that I learned from my ex. It was always put yourself on the other side. And it took me a long time to be able to learn how to do that. And now it's become autopilot. Because what happens is if you don't do that, you will always use the scenario. You always look at it from your vantage point, which you always give yourself the benefit of the doubt. Like, yeah, but I just really wanted to know this. Or let's say if I was asking a question. I just really wanted to know that. But if you put yourself in the other person's shoes, you can go, well, maybe the information is embarrassing. Or maybe they're not comfortable sharing. Or maybe there are people in this room who they weren't ready to tell. So maybe I'm going to err on the side of caution and not ask and see if it comes out later organically. Or maybe ask them in privacy. When you constantly put yourself in the other shoes, or if you're I've been accused often of being over analytical. But I also think when you're analytical, it allows you to be very empathetic. Because you're always assessing, could I have done this better? What could I have done differently? And was I considerate? And oftentimes, I could even be watching a show and I'm like, ooh, I could see myself in that character. I could see myself being that, ooh, I gotta make sure I don't dominate the conversation. Let's say, for example, ooh, that person's really dominating the conversation. I have a very intense personality. I have to make sure I'm mindful of that if I'm in a group. When you start to become aware of the things that give you ick when you watch it, and then check in with yourself and say, is there room that maybe I do that? Let me know if this conversation about defensiveness is resonating. I know one woman said it was, and thank you for the badge. But let me know if it's resonating. It was on my heart to share. Apologize again for the voice. I haven't totally gotten it back. Unfortunately, I got the Rona. So I've been in quarantine for a couple of days. But when couples are able to freely express themselves without fear of repercussion, without fear of an emotional explosion, it allows them to be more honest with you and vulnerable with you, and it makes the relationship so much sweeter. Because most people don't want to just end the relationship, especially if you have kids together. Most people aren't just going to be like, I gave it 16 years, I'm out, right? It takes a lot to walk away. But what they will do, especially men, is emotionally shut down. Men have this beautiful ability to compartmentalize. I am so freaking jealous because emotional regulation is hard for me. I always use the term, my body feels like it's on fire. I feel my emotions physically in my body. I store anger in my stomach. Like, oh my God, when I'm angry, I'm frustrated. It feels like someone's kneading my stomach like bread. If I'm nervous, I feel like tingly. I feel like all the nerves under my arms start tingling, or maybe my ears start itching. If I am embarrassed, I'll feel my face get really red. If I am kind of scared, I'll get a lump in my throat. So I feel my emotions. It feels like I'm riding this wave. So I've had to work very hard to override or still do what I need to do despite the emotions. And God has given men this beautiful innate ability to compartmentalize. It's like little boxes. So he could be really pissed and put that in the box, I'm pissed, and then be like, but I still need to provide for my family, and then go to work. Me, I'm like, blah, I don't want to call out today. I don't want to show up today. I'm just so upset. I don't even think I can work here anymore. Yeah. Forget that job. And then the next thing, like, oh, dang, I want to lose my job. Oh, no, you're in quarantine too. So you have to learn how to self-regulate. And to tie this back to how we all started, so many men encounter women who don't have emotional self-control. And so they could clearly articulate what it is. I don't want to be with you because it feels like you've made me your whole world, and I don't want to be your whole world. I want to be in your world. I don't want to be a whole part of your world. Or I don't want to be with you because you're insecure, and the fact you keep bringing up the women I used to date and how they look, and you keep, belittling yourself. I don't like that. I don't like insecurity. Like they're very good at articulating, because they'll share things with me. Why did you stop talking to the last person or whatever? But when it comes to the women, they'll say, oh, you're just too good for me. You deserve better than I can give you. Or I'm just not in a place where I'm ready for a relationship right now. And then he meets the next girl and they're engaged in like 6 weeks. So again, I'm not giving excuses and condoning, rather. I'm not condoning the behavior, but I can understand. I can understand a man saying, I don't want to walk into the fire. One of the things that I knew growing up and seeing different people in my circle, like family circle, whatever, I saw so many dynamics of men who were not afraid, because men have told me they hate that word being described as afraid, but they were like walking on eggshells because they didn't want to upset the wife. They knew if they did certain things and it upset her, it would rock the boat. And now, like how they say, if mama ain't happy, no one's happy. And I feel like that's such an unhealthy thing. And I remember thinking, I don't ever want to be a wife like that. I don't ever want to be a partner like that, where the person has to walk around on eggshells. They gotta handle me with kid gloves, because that's not real love. That's like a person basically being afraid of you. I'd rather be the golden retriever that, can jump on people and lick them and get petted, versus I don't want to use a different dog because then it's going to sound like I'm anti this breed, but versus the dog that, is like foaming at the mouth and having to be caged up, and no one wants to go within 10 feet of the cage, but they still feed it because that's the humane thing to do. Like, I want to be able to have a partner approach me and say, I love you. This thing, though, it's not a good look. I know this is not a sexy topic. I know it would probably get way more views if it was, more sensational and requires less self-reflection. But I am pleased by the number of people who are sticking around to watch this. It takes a lot of work. And I will say, when it comes to levels, of maturity and self-control, being able to still maintain an even keel when you are exploding inside, that is next level. And that has been one of my personal goals for 2024. Because I used to feel like I have a lot of self-regulation. But I realized it was because people were playing by my rules. And if they weren't, I was getting rid of them. So I would put certain boundaries in place and say, hey, this is how I need you to behave. And if they didn't behave that way, I would get rid of them. But you can't do that with everybody. And so I had a point where I had a boundary. It was violated. And I'm not talking about, something that was like a deal breaker type of a thing. It was just a communication boundary. Like, this is how I prefer to be spoken to. And for me, it was my excuse. Oh, thank you, love. It was my excuse that, well, they went there after being told, and whatever they get, that's what they're going to get. And I had this kind of epiphany the next day, because all that did was exacerbate the situation. The person didn't say, gosh, she did tell me not to do X, Y, Z, and I still did it, so I get what I deserve. No, I just look like a lunatic. I just look like a lunatic. And I remember telling a friend the next day, I said, I want to be able to stay cool, calm, and composed in whatever situation I find myself in. Now, obviously, if I'm fighting for my life, or, there are always extremes, and it's different. But I should always be able to keep myself collected and walk away if need be. That, to me, is one of the highest levels of strength, self-control. emotional control, self-regulation. And as women, if we can learn that, if we can master that, we will have so much more success in relationships. We will have such a better time with men, and men will have a better time with us. When you are defensive, it ends up being a very selfish response, even though you are just defending, well, you're defending yourself, right? It's bringing it back to you. And it takes away from what that person is going through. So let's just say, for example, you step on the person's toe. We'll make a silly metaphor. You step on their toe. Now their toe is throbbing. It's hurting. And they come to you and they say, hey, I don't know if you realize this, but you stepped on my toe. And you say, it really makes me feel unloved when you criticize me. It really makes me feel like, and you start talking about your feelings and how awkward you feel because they're bringing this to you. Meanwhile, their toe is throbbing. So we're not giving attention to the person who was offended or bothered or troubled, because now it's all about coddling you and your emotions. And it is a very childish, immature response to allow your emotions to take over and dictate your actions. And this is what makes a lot of men see us like children and start to subconsciously treat us like children because of this behavior. And I'll flip it because I know women don't like it when it's one-sided. But it would be like him not picking up after himself, having to be reminded about things a million times. You're going to start to see him like a little boy, and you're going to want to start to mother him. It's not going to work in a romantic relationship. Two people need to show up like adults, and there should be a mutual respect because the other person is doing what they need to do. Like I said, when you are defensive, I think it is a sign of an insecurity, a sign that you're looking at it going, if this person discovers that I'm not perfect, they're going to leave me. And so if you have this mindset that what's for me is for me, if someone does walk away, yes, it's going to suck, but all I can do is show up and be the best version of myself. And the way you do that in that moment is give it a beat. Think about it and think there's a possibility. And even if you don't see it, you could say, it's not resonating with me, but I hear you. And I am sorry for what you had to experience. I never want you to have to experience X, Y, Z. If they tell you, it made me feel unloved, it made me feel whatever, you can always say, oh my gosh, that was not my intention. Or you could ask questions, but always start with the apology. I'm so sorry you went through that. Man, I hate that for you. It wasn't my intention. And you could say, what led you to think that? What gave you that impression? What did I do that caused you to see that? And you're going to learn something about the way you're coming across. And it might just be that you do things differently from now on. Because sometimes people can perceive something, erroneously. And, whenever you leave the dishes out, it feels like you don't care. Why? Because then I have to do it. Oh, babe, but I was going to do it in the morning. Oh, it might be a misunderstanding. But you still want to start out with acknowledging their pain. I am sorry you felt like that. I would never want you to feel like that. What things can I do to make you not feel like that? How do we reverse this? These types of dialogues, these types of communications are so sexy. This is healthy relationship stuff. This is emotional intelligence. And this is the type of thing that would make a man say, she's exhibiting behavior of someone I could marry. This is an example. You still have to do the other stuff. But this is an example. And don't think just because you're beautiful, you got nice full lips and a big old booty and a flat tummy, that he's going to overlook it. Everything gets old at a certain point. And so be open to looking within. And again, like I said, I'll end on this. Remember, if your partner is bringing you criticism, that means they still have hope in the relationship. They're saying, I'm still invested enough to communicate with you in hopes that we can make this thing better. When he stops communicating his grievances, that's when you should be concerned, because at that point he don't give a hoot. And it's the same thing for us women, right? You're going to say something, you're going to ask him to do the dishes. If you've asked it so many times and you don't see a change, at some point you're just going to be like, I'm going to stop asking. But that resentment doesn't go away, it just builds. So hopefully this was helpful. Hopefully this will allow the ladies to have some tools moving forward. Catch yourself. And it doesn't always have to be romantic relationships. Your boss could piss you off. Your neighbor could piss you off. Your child could piss you off. And you're going to have to be able to work through those emotions, to be able to stay calm, to be able to figure out what tools you need to use, to be able to be productive and have a productive conversation. I said I was going to close with this. I'm like a Baptist preacher. But I do want to say this. I'm learning a lot about masculine and feminine energy, and it's so fascinating to me. So fascinating. And if you're unaware, like I was at one point, we all have masculine and feminine energy. And I think it's confusing because we use the term masculine and feminine, which masculine refers to male, feminine refers to female. But in the case of energy, it's a yin and a yang. It's a light and a dark. It's an on and an off. It's just two different energies that work perfectly in unison together in the same way that overall the masculine, the man, and the feminine woman work together. But within ourselves, we have both energies, right? And so the emotions, I hate when people use that, oh, you're so emotional, as an insult, because your emotions, your pure emotions, your raw, unfiltered emotions are a beautiful gift from your feminine side. And men have them too. Men have a feminine side. God gave us emotions. And it's a beautiful, beautiful thing. Tosh, I am not a therapist. I am a coach. I'm a dating coach. And I'm just a girl who wanted love and had to learn and unlearn the things I had learned wrong. And now I just share with other women what I've learned. But our emotions are our feminine side. And then our masculine side has logic. And if we only had the masculine side of us, ladies, we would just be thinking. We would be thinking and we would never feel. Hey, what do you feel about this? Why? I think, no. What do you feel? We wouldn't feel empathy. We wouldn't feel compassion. We wouldn't feel all these things. Thank you, Willie, for the badge. But our logical side is needed. You cannot have not the cootie goat. We can't have one without the other. So we have the emotions, we feel the emotions, but then the logic is like the container that the emotions fit into, like a container and water. The water is all over the place. The water has amazing qualities, but it's all over the place until it's put into the container. When it's put into the container, that's a controlled environment. Now somebody can drink out of it. Now somebody can use it as a vase for flowers. Now it serves purpose. It has utility. The emotions on their own cause a mess. The container on its own doesn't really serve a purpose. What is it containing, right? It's the two together working in concert. I would love that, Tosh. I have one-on-one coaching, and I also have a coaching program. My next one starts in December, and I've got 4 seats left. So if you want either one of those, we can definitely talk. But those two come together, the masculine and the feminine. And so with some of you, your feminine, they call it, it's wounded energy. And a lot of that is just, it's not regulated. You have emotions, but your emotions are controlling you. You should be in control of your emotions. It's okay to feel them. You should not suppress them. Suppressing your emotions, because that's a trauma response. And that's having too much masculine energy a lot of times. And a lot of guys suffer from that. But you need to be able to regulate your emotions. And so I kind of look at emotions like this river. It's always happening. It's very strong. But you got to learn, take your masculine energy and build a raft. build a raft and get some oars and learn how to navigate that river, because they're a great tool if you can use them properly. You can use it to connect. You can use it to empathize. And it's very important. But we got to also be able to use that logical side of our brains, that masculine side. So if this is something you want to learn about, I am teaching an 8-week course. 2 of the weeks we go over femininity. I say femininity, but it's both masculine and feminine energy. And we look at what does an imbalance look like. If you have too much masculine energy, and if you have too much feminine energy, what does it look like? Are you no longer in a relationship? Oh, you enjoy my book? Thank you so much. No, I am in a relationship. I was saying I got divorced years ago, so maybe that's what you heard. But having that balance. And it was said, I don't know how they got the percentages, but it was said that typically a man has 80% masculine energy and 20% feminine. And they use that yin and yang symbol to represent, right? So if you look at the yin and yang, and then it's divided in the center, there's a little dot on one side. So it's one dominant color and then a dot of the opposite color, and then the opposite color with a dominant color dot. I don't know if that makes sense. Like 80-20. So as women, we have a lot more of, oh, no worries. We have a lot more of the feminine. We have a lot more of those types of things. And we have to have that balance. I'll give another example. So when it comes to femininity, part of being feminine is being agreeable and going with the program, right? You're not like, no, it has to be my own way. It's stubborn. However, you still have to have part of that, a little bit of that resistance when something isn't safe for you. So you have to be your own protector before you find a person outside of you who can do that job, in addition to you. So part of that protection is during the vetting process. Is this person qualified to be in my life? Is this person qualified to be intimate with me? For me to be intimate with them. Is this person qualified to know my deep, dark secrets? You still have to have that protective layer before you can just, I'm going to go with the program. I'm going to go with the flow. So having that balance is so important. And I was just working with a woman who, in my last course, or my current course, and she realized that she was doing certain things out of protection, trying to protect her feminine, but it was putting her too much in her masculine to where it was turning off men. So if that's something that you want to work on, just comment the word DM me the word December in my inbox, and I will share the information on my coaching program. My purpose in life is to be able to take whatever lessons I've learned in my 44 years, pass it on to as many women as want to hear it. I have 8 weeks in my course, and we go over a broad range of things. But if you would like to stick around, if you're interested, I can give you a brief outline, and then if you are interested, just DM me the word December. But we have 8 weeks. And week 1, we get mentally prepared to date. We really go in there, see where your mind is at. What's your mindset around yourself, around men, around dating as a whole? Okay, awesome, Tosh. And we make sure you don't have any mindsets that are crippling you and sabotaging you out the gate. We also get really clear on what you want and need in a man, so you can get really good at vetting. And we get really clear so that there's no more, oh, he wasted my time. You're also vetting. You should also be seeing if he fits your needs. But if you're not even clear on what you need, how can you vet? So I give you a lot of psychological things that will help you during the process to where dating is fun. Dating should not be scary. First dates should not be stressful. You should not be obsessing, oh my God, is he going to like me? Am I going to get picked? And I'm going to teach you how to move into a different space. How do you get there? And then weeks 2 and 3, I give you everything I can possibly give you from the 9 years that I've been interviewing men. I talk about universal truths. Every human is different. However, you start to see common denominators. As women, we have some universal truths. For example, we all love muscles. There's never been a woman who's like, ew, he's in the gym, that's gross. We like taller than us. We like protection. We like provision. Even if we're millionaires, we like a man who still says, I'm going to provide. It's not going to all rest on your shoulders. We like men to smell good. We like men to be able to be in touch with their emotions. We all have things that we all universally agree on, and men are the same way. So yes, you still have to learn your individual guy, but if you already have a baseline of what most men want, girl, you're going to be so far above the rest. I would be doing the most basic things that to me were just so basic. And I had one guy just said, oh, he just sat there shaking his head. I said, what? After one day, he's like, I can't believe you did this, this, and this. And I was like, that's not, I really thought that was just basic, etiquette. And I was so far in front of other women he dated just from doing these basics. And I hadn't even gotten to know him yet. So you'll be so far ahead. I'm going to share with you all the tea of what guys have said over the years. There's a reason why I made the men's page private, because guys can share freely without worrying about repercussion and backlash. And they tell. They're not unable to share. It's not that they have communication issues or they don't have emotional depth. They just often don't find that we're a safe space to talk to. But honey, you give them a safe space, they'll sing like a bird. And they're singing over there. So it's beautiful, because if you understand more about men, you can be a better partner. And if you're a better partner, they'll be a better partner to you. And it's just a beautiful thing. So we go over that. Weeks, what are we at? 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. We go over femininity, which I was just talking about. How to tap into your feminine. How to evoke, that polarity, that beautiful polarity when masculine and feminine interact. Week 6, we work on perfecting your online presence, making sure that you are giving wifey vibes if that's what you want. If you want to be a wife, hey, what should you be doing? It's kind of like working on a resume, making sure you're presenting yourself in the best way possible. And I show you guys a profile that a woman did that the guys all assessed and said, oh my God, like this is the standard. This woman is doing it. And I'll tell you exactly why they saw it the way that they did, so that you can emulate the things that she did and represent yourself in the best way. And then we do a week where we go over all your profiles. Oh, I also give you guys a secret flirting technique. It's something that I learned before I met my guy, and I was like, I have nothing to lose. Let me try it out. And it took my online conversations from so dry and dusty to exciting, engaging. One guy was like, I have actual tears coming down my face. He's like, I've never had such a good time on a first conversation. And it's the thing that my guy said. I was like, who is this? I have to get to know her. He told me much later that he was just on the app just to like pass time and be entertained. He's like, if I met someone great, but I didn't really think I would meet anybody. He said, but when you did that, I was like, I gotta get to know her. So I give you guys that, and you guys get to practice that. And then the last week, I give you relationship tips, because at this point you should know how to inspire commitment from a guy. But once you get him, you don't want to make him shut down, and now we're back at square one where, he's miserable and you're miserable because he's shut you off emotionally. So I give you that, plus 10 characteristics to look for in a partner who will make for a really good partner. One of them I gave you today. It's the defensiveness. Look at how defensive he is if you give him feedback. So if you're interested in that class, I promise I am wrapping right here. I know I said it 3 times. But if you're interested in that class, DM me the word December. I limit it because we do group coaching, and it's very hard if we have too many girls in one class. So if you want one of the 4 spots, let me know. Comment the word DM, and I will see you another day. Thank you for all the well wishes. Thank you for the badges, and thank you for the recommendations. I did see your recommendation. I had a gentleman send me a very similar list. So I've been taking that stuff, the natural stuff. Thank you guys, and have a beautiful day. Thank you, Willie.